Now look at Jessica looking all extra spooky in a cemetery. In a cemetery in Sleepy Hollow, which can only mean one thing. You guessed it. Today we're doing a video devoted to the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Perfect time for Halloween. It's October. We're here in this historic village. We're going to be visiting some famous graves from the story, the author himself, as well as some places around Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown that Washington Irving used to create his timeless tale about a headless horseman and a very skinny school teacher, Ichabod. So whenever we watch the cartoon, how's it go?
Ichabod.
Ichabod.
Because it's a frog.
It is a frog.
Ichabod.
So right now we're standing in pretty much in the middle of the Old Dutch burying ground. We're going to show you around and give you a little bit of a tour. And then we're going to be going all throughout the town. We have the entire day to bring you. Grim Life Collective presents The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Wherever I come, bad luck just comes my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. A bad luck's always a coming my way.
Now behind us, while we're doing our little intro, is the actual church that Washington Irving wrote about in his story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Old Dutch church here in the burying ground. Now this is a small cemetery. But what's interesting is right next to it, I'm talking like 20 or 30 acres, is the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. There's a bunch of famous people that are buried there, including, even though they're not buried there, the Ramones filmed their Pet Cemetery music video here. There are a couple different ways to get up to the Old Dutch church. This is one of them, and it's probably the easiest from the parking lot, especially on a sunny day like today. Something else, this history. Different entrances. There's a family, Thomas Dean. And if we come up, right up here in the very front, you're going to see the grave, the final resting place of Eleanor Van Tassel, who was the inspiration for Katrina. Right there in the front.
Oh no?
Let's go up. We're going to show you a little bit better view of it in just a little bit, but there she is. Eleanor Van Tassel.
And his path was crossed by a woman. A certain woman. Katrina Van Tassel, daughter and only child of old Baltus Van Tassel, the richest farmer in the county.
You guys will have to walk with me. So a lot of folks come here and they take pictures of the church. And if they're lucky, if they see it, they see the historic marker for the original covered bridge. Washington Irving's buried here. We're going to show you his grave in just a moment. But Katrina and Brom Bones, their real life characters are here as well. Now, straight ahead is Katrina. Well, in real life, her name was Eleanor Van Tassel. And in order to get to her stone, her monument, you have to pretty much walk all the way around the church. And it's right here. So it says, in memory of Caleb Brush. But if you come down here, also, let's see if I can get that in there. Eleanor Van Tassel, the real life inspiration for Katrina from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's pretty wild, right? And not too far from her, but towards the back of the actual church, is the inspiration for Brom Bones as well. I mean, pretty much everywhere you walk in the cemetery, there's something beautiful to look at. Right about the center of your screen, the one with the flag, is a man by the name of Abraham Martling. Now this gentleman, Washington Irving used him as the inspiration for Brom Bones in his story. Pretty wild.
Just gather round and I'll elucidate on what goes on outside when it gets late. There's things with horns and saucer eyes. Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight to see what goes on Halloween night.
And down here, towards the bottom of the stone, it says he died November 3rd, 1830. And if you find the stone a little hard to read, some of them, well, especially him, it has a little plaque here from Friends of Old Dutch, Abraham Marr. Well, it's supposed to say Martling. 1743 to 1830. Because we're here in the month of October, we're going to see a whole bunch of people scattered throughout the town taking part in some of the Halloween activities. But before the tree, yeah, a lot of the stones here, especially in New England, are absolutely beautiful. Now before we start walking through the cemetery and showing you characters, I do want to walk up here to the front of the church. Trying to avoid the sun as much as possible. Look at this. Man, that is beautiful. Historical plaque here on the front of the church. Dutch Reformed Sleepy Hollow Church has been designated a registered National Historic Landmark. One plaque there, and there's another one on the other side of the door. Let's go over here and take a look at it. This one here, I think, is the cooler of the two. See it? Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow, Church of the Manor of Philipsburg, erected by Frederick Philips in 1697. As we walk throughout the Old Dutch burying ground, you're going to hear a bunch of cars and trucks. That's because running right next to it is a pretty busy road. But man, this is cool. The Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow, built in 1697 by Frederick Philips, first Lord of the Manor, in use since Accept and Revolution. There's one more grave that we want to visit, and that's the man himself who wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, a man by the name of Washington Irving. A little bit of a hike to get to him, not much, he's at the top of the hill, but they have these really nice pathways that go through all these old tombstones. What do you think, Baby Gold? This is your very first time in Sleepy Hollow. Is it everything you thought it was going to be? First impressions?
It really is. I can't get over the beauty here. I love the way that it's laid out, and I love reading all of the old names. I think they're so lovely.
The best part about it, she's reading all the epitaphs and all the stones in an accent. I'm not even sure what it is, but you kind of sound like a pirate.
I did. I was trying, because a lot of them are in Old Dutch, and so they don't read like today's modern English. And I could not get the pronunciations right at all, and I really just ended up sounding like a pirate.
Arrgh.
Arrgh.
When we get up here to the top of the hill, we have to hang back a little bit. There are October tours going on, but I can see his plot right now. Pumpkins everywhere. But it looks like the tour is not where we are heading, so we can kind of start filming and walk over to Washington Irving's family plot, which is right here where we can see the pumpkins. Beautiful gate, right? Let's get up there, take a look. So that's the nameplate. A lot of family members back there. Now if we peek down below and look through, that stone that's right there at the base of the tree, it says the Irving family grave plot. And he's actually behind it off to the right. I'm gonna zoom in. Well, this is as close as we can technically get without getting in there. They ask that nobody climbs the fence into the grave plot, but it says Washington Irving, born April 3rd, 1783, and died November 28th. I think it says 1859 from right here.
Did you say April 3rd?
I did.
That's my birthday.
So you and Washington Irving share the same birthday,
Awesome.
right? Look at
Yeah.
that.
That made my day.
It makes sense, your love for pumpkins. Yes, there are a whole bunch of people that are buried here, some big names, but we've actually just come here for Washington Irving, Abraham Martling, who was Brom Bones, as well as Eleanor Van Tassel, who was Katrina. Now at this point, instead of going around and trying to track down Andrew Carnegie's grave, we're just gonna go walk around, get some shots, and just show you and try to give you a feel for what it's like to be here inside the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery and the Old Dutch burying ground. At the beginning of this video, I did mention that the Ramones filmed their music video, Pet Sematary, here. Honestly, I have no clue where. And I thought about doing a shot for shot, trying to find which stone it was, where it was at, but the cemetery is so massive, all you need to know is that they filmed it here. Oh man. It goes on. There's just acres and acres of this place. Walking back to the car, and Jessica noticed this. These three little stones right here in the front of the one that's behind it. It's of three little kids who drowned together while playing on ice, like a frozen lake or a river. Let's see, a pond, I'm sorry. Let's see, drowned together while playing with a sled on the ice of the Sawmill Pond, December 1871. When it comes down to it, all the sites in Sleepy Hollow, they're all really close together. It's not a very big place. It's just a small little portion, like an historic area of Tarrytown. The cemetery, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, old burying ground, which is right here where the Van Tassel and Martling, Brom Bones is buried. But right across the street from the entrance is the site of the original covered bridge from the story. It's cool. It looks a lot different because, well, it's been updated. It's 2021 at the time of watching this. But further in the cemetery, we're gonna go back there as well. There's an older bridge. It's not covered, but it looks very Sleepy Hollow-ish. Hey, baby girl, you notice the giant inflatable pumpkins across the street? It's a sure sign, aside from being in Sleepy Hollow, that Halloween is upon us. So let me tell you where we're standing. Right now we're on the corner of Bellwood and Broadway. And if we pan the camera this way, this intersection, you're gonna see it doesn't look like a bridge, but it is. And hidden over here, right by the tree line, let's get a little closer to it, just see what I mean. There's a plaque here that says, "The Headless Horseman Bridge, described by Irving in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, formerly spanned this stream at this spot, at this very spot." There's a little sidewalk we can walk over and look over the edge. It's not, like I said, Sleepy Hollow, the village of Sleepy Hollow, isn't very big. Let's see here. Right where Jessica's leaning over, Sleepy Hollow Bridge, erected to the memory of Washington Irving, 1783 to 1859.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
It looks just like I imagined it.
Right?
Yeah, and I can picture an old wooden bridge going across this stream.
This is where it all started. Let me come over on the other side of you. This is the story, the legend of Sleepy Hollow, right here.
I know.
We have walked the footsteps in many historical places, both good and bad, across the United States for many years, but none of them are as classic or as iconic as this place. Right now, we're standing at the original site of the covered bridge from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
That story has haunted my childhood in a loving way. I've been obsessed with it since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
I can't leave.
Wait, what?
I can't leave. I'm rooted to the spot.
Why can't you leave?
Because there's pumpkins on my feet.
Oh, let me see them. Ah, perfect. Again, we got to be careful because of the main road. But there's this giant headless horseman and Ichabod crane structure over here in this little median between the two streets. These fallen leaves, this is beautiful. Let me see that, let me see. Look at you. I like it. Trick or treat.
Trick or treat. Trick or treat on Halloween.
Ichabod.
Ichabod.
All right, let's swing around under this tree. All right, get a load of this. Here, let me fix the camera a little bit. It's a little hard to see, but if you look at it, it's like this perfect, what is it, bronze, copper, metal, patinaed. But basically, it's the headless horseman chasing after Ichabod crane towards the bridge, where the bridge once stood. And if you look up there in his hand, you see the pumpkin? That is something else. And again, as point of reference, if we look right past Jessica and the statue, or the art piece, whatever you want to call it, right by the center of your screen, right in front of that black car, that's where the original bridge was. And then on the other side of those trees, the old Dutch burying ground. It's all right here. It's all real. Now, of course, Washington Irving wrote his famous story based off of this place. Now, a lot of people think that Washington Irving was actually living here in town, Tarrytown at the time, when he wrote it. In fact, I mean, he grew up here. His family home's here. We're gonna go visit it in just a little bit. But if I'm not mistaken, he was actually living somewhere else in New York when he penned this place. So all these places in his childhood home, from the bridge to the family, the Van Tassels, it's all based off of his memories growing up. What's that?
What you know.
Exactly. Right what you know. And aside from these big locations, there's a bunch of little things scattered throughout Sleepy Hollow. Let me show you what I mean. You might be hearing the sounds of running water. This is the creek that the original covered bridge was crossing, but it's further into the cemetery. There's another bridge back here that looks more like it came from the movie or the story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but it's the wrong one. Well, everybody comes here. This is beautiful, right?
This is so lovely. It is picture perfect for fall, for Halloween, and rightfully so. This is why people flock here during this season. I am in love. I am enchanted.
I love that this is my wife's element. This is where she wants to be. I mean, ultimately we couldn't live here because of the snow, but she's just walking around taking tons and tons of photos. Hey, baby girl. You're absolutely gorgeous. I love whenever you smile.
You're absolutely gorgeous. I love it when you smile.
Yeah.
And you too.
I can't tell you how much I miss the smell of leaves falling, of wet leaves,
Yeah.
and the sight of leaves falling from trees in the wind.
It's such a particular smell, and it's almost borderline unpleasant, but addictive.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to the top of the bridge to get their photos and just stand there. I'm gonna sneak around the side for a little bit and just get a shot underneath the bridge and how it looks crossing the stream. Man, that's something else. So peaceful, right in the middle of the cemetery. Like I said, this isn't the original bridge, but if you're coming to Sleepy Hollow and you want to see a bridge that has a Sleepy Hollow vibe to it, then you definitely want to come check it out. Spanning across the same stretch of stream as the original one did. This truly is something else. Baby, this is gorgeous. What do you think?
It's beautiful.
You want to live in Sleepy Hollow?
Beautiful. I could live here.
Get rid of the
during
snow though.
spring.
Yeah, right? No
And
snow.
fall.
This could be our summer
Getaway.
fall home.
Yes.
Get a place right down in like the historic Sleepy Hollow
Yeah.
town. That rhymed. Stop rhyming and I mean it. Does anybody want a peanut?
No, I'm allergic. No, I'm not. I'm not allergic to peanuts.
Let's go look over top the edge here. Over the bridge, I should say. And now for the mushy segment of our Sleepy Hollow video. Gotta kiss you on the Headless Horseman Bridge. Well, kind of the Headless Horseman Bridge. Pucker up, sweet stuff. I love you, Pumpkin.
I love you too.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Happy technical anniversary.
That's right. We first started officially talking
Sort of our first date was on
Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Halloween is very special. We were married on May 1st, but October 31st is
Engaged
technically...
on Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas. Wild, right?
Yeah.
Hey, baby girl, it was a little hard to see the leaves in your dress from the other side of the bridge of the creek. So let's take a look. Go ahead. Let's see these dead leaves. What a problem to have, right?
You gotta shake them off every once in a while, but these ones have stayed with me.
They are keepers.
Keepers. I'm a lady of the woods.
The next stop on our Legend of Sleepy Hollow tour is a place called Phillipsburg Manor, and sadly, it is closed for renovations, but we can at least walk up to the old mill and talk about it and show it. And in doing so, we came across this. Look at this. Wow. And the rose? Man, bless my beating heart. I love this story. Because Phillipsburg Manor is closed for renovations, you can't bring your car back here, you can't tour the mill, but you can park up the street and walk back here, as long as you're being respectful, not damaging anything or going to places you're not supposed to be. Well, this mill, Washington Irving wrote about it in his story. This is where Ichabod Crane would go strolling with the ladies while everybody else in the town was jealous, because he was this scrawny school teacher, but he was this outsider, you know, outsider, kind of somebody strange and different and charming. And that's what made him attractive. And everybody, including Brom Bones, were like, who is this guy? We don't want anything to do with him. But in the book, this is where it all happened, where he went strolling with the ladies. Walking around the property, trying to find the best viewing spot. As you can see, Phillipsburg Manor closed for renovations, but that's it straight ahead. And when we get closer, I'll read you a little excerpt from the story that Washington Irving wrote. But this is it. And then over here, you can kind of see it off in the distance. It's the old Dutch burying ground, the church, the covered bridge. It's all right here. Now, from my understanding, this isn't the original mill buildings or structures from whenever Washington Irving was living here. Instead, it's an accurate restoration, a representation of it. Now, imagine, if you will, a tall, gaunt, charming Ichabod Crane walking around in this area, possibly even like a little land bridge such as that with the ladies of the town. Now, I don't have it memorized because I suck at things like that, but I'm going to read you a little excerpt from Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it goes like this. Our man of letters, therefore, was happy in the smiles of all the country damsels, how he would figure among them in the churchyard, or sauntering with a whole bevy of them along the banks of the adjacent mill pond, right across the street, while the more bashful country bumpkins hung sheepishly back, somewhere over there, envying his superior elegance and address. Pretty wild, right? Man, this is blowing my mind.
I can imagine that because Ichabod was a man of scholarly learning. He was a teacher, that he probably dressed a bit more sophisticated than the locals did, you know, a little bit of a dapper swagger. And he probably wooed the ladies with bits of poetry and rhetoric.
Right? I mean, in the story, at least in the cartoon, didn't he always carry books with him?
He always had a book. He was a school teacher, and they say there's something about a skinny man that women just love to feed. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
When we were down at the original site of the covered bridge, we saw another angle looking at Phillipsburg Manor. So we're gonna head back that way. It's a beautiful day for a walk. And see if we can see across the pond. Right now we're standing on the new bridge that was erected in memory of Washington Irving. Now you see that wooden bridge right there? That's part of the Phillipsburg Manor property. We can't get on it. Again, it's closed. But you can see the mill off in the background. I love the sound of the running water. All right, baby girl. It's time to go off the beaten path. You ready to go find some of the harder to find Legend of Sleepy Hollow sites?
Like what?
There's the tavern from the story. There's the haunted rock. There's even the street, well, the dirt road that Ichabod would have rode into town on. I tracked it all down. We're gonna try to get to it all today. You ready? Let's do it. Before we start venturing off into the backwoods of Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown, there's one more spot where everybody comes to get photos. And that's here at the Welcome to Historic Sleepy Hollow sign, settled in 1640. And it's a perfect photo opportunity because usually they have bales of hay, sometimes even pumpkins here. What's that?
Pumpkin!
Pumpkins. Man, this is cool. What you're looking at right now is a building called the Landmark Condominium. And it's funny because Jessica and I, when we first rolled into town, we took one look at this building and thought if we ever moved here to Sleepy Hollow, we'd have to live here. And the cool thing about that is when it comes to the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, this building, well, this property, plays a very important part in the story. You see, when Washington Irving was living here in town and he knew of this place, all these buildings weren't here. Instead, it was 165 acres of open land, and there was one house right where this condominium now stands, and it belonged to the Van Tassel family. Remember Katrina Van Tassel? The cemetery that we visited, Eleanor Van Tassel? This was the family property.
In all the countryside, there was nothing to equal a merrymaking at Mynheer Van Tassel's farm. To Ichabod, here was a perfect field for his endeavors. Now, indeed, would he put his best foot forward. The schoolmaster prided himself upon his dancing.
And then after the family, it became Mott Tavern. You remember the tavern in the story? See, it all starts to come together.
Yeah.
This is the Van Tassel house, and also the tavern from the story, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where Ichabod hears the ghostly tales of the town.
They say he's tired of his flaming top, so he rides one night each year to find a head in the hollow here. When you're riding home tonight, make for the bridge with all your might. He'll be be down in the hollow there. Keep your head, look out, beware.
This is where he loses it. He starts getting scared and then he has
Yeah.
to walk home.
Little scaredy cat.
So much has changed over the years. Sadly, there's no plaque that says the Van Tassel's farmhouse or the cottage was here at one point, but it was. But there is a plaque dedicated to the Mott Tavern. Now, if you're looking at the front facade of the building, there's a little driveway off to the right-hand side, this old stone pillar, concrete pillar, and it says Landmark Condominiums, 18 North Broadway. But there's a plaque just on the other side of it that says former Pearson School, site of Mott House Tavern, rededicated to private use with enclosed time capsule, November 12th, 1984. That's the closest thing you're gonna get to the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Pretty freaking wild. And now, all these houses are here. A busy street is in front of the property. Can you imagine back in the day when this was just 165, almost 200 acres of open farmland?
Ooh, that's huge.
Right?
That's massive.
And oh yeah, as we've been walking around and driving around town, we've seen these scarecrows tied to lampposts. They kind of look like little children.
There have been a few children ones too, which is very unsettling.
They're a little creepy.
And they're all wearing name tags.
Like this one here, his name is Bob.
Bab.
I like that this town is just embracing the Sleepy
It's
Hollow
real
legend and
strong.
Halloween. Yeah. For our next Legend of Sleepy Hollow location, it's not too far down the street from where the Van Tassel's house was. And what's really neat is something happens when you actually walk history instead of just reading it. First off, I should point out that this church has absolutely nothing to do with the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I just thought it was really,
Cool.
yeah, it was very cool, very beautiful, and it feels like it belongs in the story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. What we're going to be talking about is a park that is directly across the street. It's called Patriot Park. A whole bunch of things happened there, I think, back in the Revolutionary War, but this is the park where Ichabod walks through it on his way home, where he first encounters the Headless Horseman. Right? That, to me, that's cool as heckins. Remember what I said about walking history instead of just reading it, and how it helps make things make sense? Well, in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the way Washington Irving wrote it, to the right of the screen, right down that road, if we follow that path, it takes you to where Van Tassel's house would have been. This bridge right here, in the middle of this park, Washington Irving wrote about it. And on the other side of this bridge, further down the street, is where the covered bridge was, where, you know what happened with the Headless Horseman. So he would have been walking in Washington Irving's world right across this bridge. It's right in the middle of both locations, so of course he'd be walking it. This is something else. I feel like I'm a history detective or something like that. Like a grim Indiana Jones.
A man of scholarly letters.
A man of scholarly letters?
I think that's what it's called.
A man of letters.
A man of letters, I love it.
Letters.
And this place is just gorgeous. Right?
I love that waterfall.
I love this town, this village, Sleepy Hollow. Jessica has a slight obsession with crunching leaves with her feet. You having fun? I love you, baby girl.
I love you too.
So picture this. Scared, Ichabod Crane is walking home and he passes right where we are standing, of course, in Washington Irving's fictional tale. He's scared and he encounters the headless horseman from somewhere back there behind where Jessica was playing in the leaves. See what happens whenever you mess with Halloween? You don't do it,
You
kids.
lose your head?
Right? So he chases him. The headless horseman chases Ichabod Crane further down the road, which is actually Broadway Street, to the covered bridge and where the old burying ground is, and the old Dutch church and Sleepy Hollow Cemetery and the mill. All this stuff that Washington Irving wrote about in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is here in basically step for step order. He grew up here. Well, he lived here and he wrote about this place. Again,
He probably walked it all the time.
write what you know.
Right, what you know.
This is the definition of walking history.
Yes.
Jessica absolutely loves the rock work here. Both of us love the rock work here in Sleepy Hollow. But this is just truly enchanting. She wanted to go down there and play. Every chance she gets to twirl, she does. It's kind of cute when she gets dizzy and almost falls over, to be honest. Down the other side she goes. The world is our playground. Are you gonna hop the little gap there? Does it go around the other side? Oh, there you are.
I would keep going, but it's wet.
Yeah, don't do that. Baby girl.
Yeah.
I know you're out of breath.
Yeah.
Don't look behind you just yet, but there's a slight hillside filled with dead, crinkly, crunchy leaves.
How do you know they're crunchy?
Because I've been around Halloween. I've been around fall leaves before. This ain't my first rodeo, darling.
Most of the day, the leaves have been not that perfect crisp crunchiness that you want to run through so badly because the air has been really moist here. So I keep getting excited and stepping on the leaves, and it's not that perfect tortilla chip crunch that you want to have under your feet, right?
Right?
Let's test it out.
Go for it. Is that your Hocus Pocus walk?
Yes.
You look like a witch from Hocus Pocus. There she goes.
I don't know. I'm gonna start rating it. I'm gonna start rating crunchy leaves. I'd give this a 7.5.
7.5?
7.5. Ooh.
Did you find an extra crunchy spot?
Ooh. That's a solid 8. Ooh. If you're a child of fall, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. That perfect, they are so dry they can use as kindling crunchy leaf. I'm looking for the perfect 10.
Our last stop on our Halloween tour here at Sleepy Hollow brings us to a place called Rockefeller State Park, which has a rock in it called Raven Rock. It's a big rock, almost the size of like a small shed, maybe even a little bit bigger than that. We wanted to take you guys there, but it turns out that it's a couple-mile hike and the park is getting ready to close because dusk is happening, which sucks. Because it's the ghostly part of the
Yeah.
story of the legend of Sleepy
The
Hollow.
round trip, we were told, is like a 6-mile hike,
Yeah.
which is difficult even for someone who is in a healthy condition. So if you're like us who is wanting to come here and see this, you might want to be warned about that first.
One of the workers, he was telling us that this park here is about 50 miles worth of trails. And it's gonna be about a 6-mile trek to and from. So since we can't do it, we can at least show you a picture because other people have been there. And we can tell you what Raven Rock is when it comes to the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Do you know what it is?
Ghost story.
It's a ghost story.
Haunted.
You see, when Ichabod Crane was at the Van Tassel party, they were telling ghost stories, and Ichabod was getting a little weak in the knees. He was getting a little scared. And one of the stories that they told him was of this lady in white that haunted the rock in this park, well, like in that area. So I thought it would have been really cool. Sadly, we can't make it. So here's a picture as I'm talking so you can see what it looks like. We tried to get there. We also tried to get to Washington Irving's home. Sadly, we couldn't get in there as well, which is okay. All in all, baby girl, did you have fun your first trip ever into Sleepy Hollow, New York? The legend of Sleepy Hollow. Headless Horseman.
It's a very enchanting place to be, especially during fall. It pretty much met all of my criteria of what I wanted it to be, having never been here before myself. Would have liked to see a few of the more historical landmarks, but there's so much to see while you're here that my day was very full, and it was all the time we had, sadly. But I would come back and visit again to see those things when they're open again, because a lot of it is still being renovated.
We spent a whole day here running around. Technically, you need, it's not very big, but technically I would say you need about 2 full days to see
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part?
Oh, I love the cemetery, 'cause
Yeah.
especially going down to the little brook, the little creek, as we used to call it back
Creek?
home.
I call it a creek. Growing up, it was a creek.
A creek,
Creek, stream, babbling
brook.
brook.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. It was very peaceful and very beautiful.
With that being said, from Sleepy Hollow, New York,
Happy
Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck just comes my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.